If someone really, like, if they're brand new to shadow work and they just want to test it out with like a couple of journaling questions, what are like 2 or 3 journaling questions that they could start with for shadow work?
What am I afraid would happen if I let go of this pattern, relationships? What is the positive outcome do I get from this negative thing that I am, aware of doing, but I cannot let go?
One of them is, what lies do I tell myself every day? That could, if you give yourself like the space and like you're really like ready to sit with it and you're not gonna like bypass it, like you're really ready, that can open up some things for you. And if and you might have to sit with that question, you might have to come back and journal on that one a couple of times. Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. I'm Vanessa Soul, your host. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And thank you for investing your time and your energy into tuning in to today's episode. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm super excited for today's guest. We have Yana. She is an inner child healing and shadow work guide, founder of Yana Healing Sanctuary, creating safe spaces for authentic connection and empowerment. Yana, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Vanessa, for having me.
Also, I have a signature question. Who are you and who are you not?
I'm a woman. Well, I still trying to figure out what does it mean to be a woman actually, like in a full sense. I am a human being who was born in Russia, but I consider myself the citizen of the world. I'm a woman who is walking the path of empowerment, of connecting to my true, authentic self that my soul came here to experience, at least as much as I can in this lifetime. I am just a regular human being with a lot of struggles and challenges, like everybody else, looking for big love, purpose, and my own way of happiness, of being happy. And who am I not? I may be not what you think of me when you first meet me, because people tend to see me like very, they project things when they see me first time, because I'm pretty not really open at first glance to people, so they kind of afraid to interact with me. So I am not that self-confident and empowered on the inside as I tend to see on the outside. What am I not? I'm not somebody who is going to keep something that I really know to be true away from you. So I'm not somebody who is going to love you in the way that is going to mislead you from where you're supposed to know and what you're supposed to see for your own good, even though if it's something that is painful to hear. So I am not somebody who can lie and disguise the words behind the mask. My face is always about showing what exactly going on the inside. So I'm somebody who cannot lie.
I love that. Thank you so much. So, because you do inner child healing, and I also did it for a while, I'm really curious to see what was your first or maybe the most memorable inner child healing that you did for yourself, whether it was just you on your own or whether you had someone helping you. Because because I ended up doing that work for a while, I always go back to my first time because it was so profound. So I'm curious to see, what was your first experience with your inner child?
My first experience was not really profound because I was very disconnected. I would say totally disconnected from myself, due to a lot of things that I had to experience in my childhood very early on, like trauma on many levels, physical, emotional, and so on. So by the time I actually came to inner child healing work, I think I was disconnected very much from my inner self, from my inner child, from my essence. So the first couple of experiences, probably a year or so, as I was doing this work, it was very difficult for me to just even feel something, to feel compassion or to feel an emotion. I was not really trusting what I was feeling. And one of the main obstacles I find in people who are very, very much conditioned and disconnected is to trust what they are feeling, even when they're not feeling anything in the moment. So it took me a couple of many sessions to really reconnect to my emotions, and because my body and mind, they're not really visual, I'm more feeling body, so my body remembers so much more than my mind. So it's the case for everybody, but some people see things. I just feel intense emotions finally when I was able to connect to them. So I would say one of the most profound experiences I actually had recently, a couple of days ago, and that was something that changed my life. At least I'm feeling it still, ripple effects from it. Is my understanding of mix of gratitude, shame, and fear when I receive things from other people. So if our receiving, which is love, essentially, receiving anything in life, it means receiving love. If the love was not unconditional in our childhood, then we felt afraid to receive it, either because we needed to give something back, or we felt that we are being loved only when something is wrong with us, we are sick. So the feeling of receiving and gratitude is mixed with shame, something is wrong with me, that's why people are giving me things. So when I started to really feel that, it was such a deep, profound experience for me, and I feel like life has been upgraded since a couple of days ago for me even more, because this is such a deep thing that we all need to understand. How do we block ourselves from receiving love, because it's all around us.
I'm curious to get a little bit more detail, like what does it look like, either the experience that you just had a couple days ago or any of your significant experiences where you're doing inner child healing for yourself. Can you paint the picture? What was happening, especially because you're a feeler, claircognizance or clairsentient, and really feeling the emotion, working through it, processing it. And I think this will be really interesting for our listeners, especially if they've been curious about inner child healing and they're like, but what does that look like? Right? So what did it look like? How did you start? What method were you using? Or you could just kind of, give us the layout of the process that you were doing.
I kind of feel called to start with what is inner child. So the inner child is our essence. It's the part of us that knows what we want, knows the joys, the things that bring us joy, that knows the passions, that can connect to other people without feeling fear, that can receive and give without fear or any other low vibrational states.
Those moments in our childhood where it's like, we can get stuck in those trauma responses, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and that impacts our whole life. And so it's so important for us to resolve a lot of that process. Sometimes we just have things that haven't been processed in our childhood. Oftentimes I hear people, they're like, I don't know if I have any trauma. I don't think I have any trauma. Maybe, maybe not. But the most important thing is integration, fully processing an emotion, fully processing a relationship with a parent, things like that. What are some other reasons why inner child work can be so transformational for us as an adults?
First answer came to me is to know really why you're here for, because your child is your essence. Your inner child is your essence, and where you were pulled for the sake of enjoyment and pleasure as a child, and maybe you were not really allowed to do that as an adult, you kind of forget those passions. So through inner child you can say, oh wow, I really admire people who can come up on the stage and talk in front of so many people. But then you're like, why am I feeling so many goosebumps, and why do I admire people doing that? Your shadow is also containing your things that you disowned. as well. So once you dive into the inner child work, you like, well, I do remember I like to stand on top of the chair in the middle of the room and pretend that I was speaking in front of thousands of people. So it's your soul calling, still calling you to embody that quality and be a speaker if you still feel an admiration for those people in your adulthood life. So life purpose one, relationships. So inner child work is all about accepting yourself. You have a negative emotion, you don't say, oh, why am I so angry, or I'm such an asshole, I'm sad again, why I just cannot be in a high vibe. Acceptance of your emotions leads to self-love. And when you really know what you want, what you need, how you feel safe around other people, what other people around you do really make you feel with connection with them, and you really feel your emotional body in response to other people, you can actually choose a partner or a friend who makes you feel safe. It's not about what they have. You're not really going through your head and say, oh, looks good on paper, the guy has the car and he works for this company and he has the money and he took me for this great dinner. But then another component appears when you really connect to yourself and say like, oh, I don't really feel like we can talk about the same things. Or every time I talk about feelings, maybe they do not know how to respond or say it's not important. So through the inner child work, you start to think, those qualities in people are really important for me too. So this is not a good candidate for me for the relationships. Then another thing would be just connecting to the joy of being, like you know what you like. You like to go and swim in the ocean. You like to sit on the beach. You like to pick the shells on the beach, and that's what you were doing when you were a kid. And you start to realize how those little things are important for you as an adult as well, even though they don't have any goals of productivity, accomplishment, or anything like that. So three, I guess. But also, I mean, self-love. It's also coming back to the self-love as like, you do strive for something that you want to achieve, but you also celebrate your wins. You're not
Yeah.
saying, oh, I'm not good enough, or this is not where I want to be. But you would speak about yourself in a different way to yourself. Wow, I'm amazing. I know so much. How far did I come in life? And of course, I'm going to do better. There is no other way. So it's also a process of really trusting yourself and believing in yourself and being your own cheerleader, and
Yes.
coming into alignment with life, actually having people around you that value you, that see your gifts, and then not having people around you that do not value you, because you can spot them, you can feel them eventually. So that's my
Yes.
answer.
So beautiful. And so I want to share, for me, I mean, there's so many benefits, and I've done so much inner child work for myself, and then I've had practitioners help me, and then I've been a practitioner for other people facilitating inner child work. But I want to say very early on, I was able to start to cultivate self compassion. Everything you said is valid, right? Self awareness, self love, believing in yourself. When we process those heavy emotions, the fear, the anger, the confusion, the doubt, when we like fully process that, it releases from our body, our energy, our mind. It doesn't hold us down. That way we're not making decisions from the past. We're so present. But for me, that self-compassion I was able to cultivate. And I remember having a memory, and I would do a lot of visualization for my child work if I was working with myself. And I remember going into the bedroom where I was like playing with this dollhouse. And I used to play with the dollhouse for relief, kind of like when there was like a lot of tension in my household, or maybe I can kind of sense or hear that an argument, my parents just got done arguing or something was happening. I remember playing with the Barbies inside this big dollhouse that would sit on a table. So in my visualization, the older me went back to the younger me and was talking to her like, "Hey, what's going on?" Because that was the healthy way of me disassociating. Not all a disassociation is bad, just for the record, from my perspective, for anyone listening. But as a child, that's how I was kind of able to, kind of be in the moment and process and just kind of play with my Barbies. But I remember having that conversation when I was doing the work, and I just had so much compassion for that younger version of myself, because I realized she had to protect herself, right, in those ways, and she had built like an emotional and energetic, I want to say, guard, because it's more than a boundary. Like a boundary can be healthy, but it was like this guard that I've had like around my heart, right? From childhood all the way up into my early 30s. So I was able to like really build a relationship with 6-year-old little Vanessa in that bedroom with the Barbie house. And then I kept revisiting her over and over again and having a new conversation and a different conversation. And yes, it's our inner child and the different parts of us, and our mind, if the impact is like our mind believes it's real. So it might feel fake or silly to our adult mind, but it really can have an impact because it allows us to reconnect to ourselves. So I just wanted to share that because I wanted to give like a really practical example on like what this can look like. And inner child work can be done in so many different ways. Yana, I have a question around shadow work now. So what is shadow work? How would you describe that?
Shadow work is subconscious mind. Shadow work is something that we have suppressed from our conscious awareness, but still remains something that really dictates our life, our behavior, our acts on everyday basis. For example, patterns. You know, pattern of emotional disconnection from yourself when you were a child. Like an example in the previous example I gave, mother didn't see you, your vulnerability for a father leaving the house, so you going to embody the pattern of disconnecting from your emotions the same way your mother disconnected you from your emotions in that particular moment. So we absorb all of the different techniques, how to relate to each other and with ourselves through our environment and our childhood. So, but because it's a repetitive situations that happen, and mainly the majority of parents are not aware as well in our reality, unfortunately, in our society. So those patterns become something that we do not question. We take them as the only true thing that exists. We absorb everything as children, and what repeats itself becomes something that we do unconsciously. So pattern of disconnecting from your own emotion or not feeling an emotion that is not as good as happiness and joy can be stored in our shadow. And if we go into our shadow work, we will see what things do we tell ourselves in order for us to maintain this disconnection from our emotion. Maybe I will be alone, maybe nobody's gonna love me, and all of that stuff. So shadow is something that can, like I said, can contain the good things as well, something we have disowned, the talent that wasn't able to express itself in childhood, singing, dancing, maybe parents didn't have means to take it to the dance classes or to the singing lessons. But it also can be something that emotionally you couldn't express because, for example, anger wasn't allowed for you to express as a child when you were in your household home, family home. So and usually we lose conscious awareness of our shadow. So you can be a person who is always smiling and see yourself as very kind person, but then some people would say, like, why are you so angry? And you will have no awareness about that, because specifically in that moment when the anger comes out, your conscious awareness of yourself turns off, and you do not perceive yourself as angry. So if you go into your shadow, you you release this negative belief about anger, which creates healthy boundaries actually for us humans. Anger is the boundary emotion for our boundaries if it expressed in a healthy way. So that's one of the ways to work with the shadow, but it's always a different process.
Yes. And what are three different methods? There's so many methods for shadow work, you guys. So I really do encourage you to like explore and see what works for you. One method of shadow work may not be your cup of tea, and that's okay. But Yana, what are three methods that you either like or maybe that you use with clients?
I like parts work, like voice dialogue as well. You write in, it also can be a part of the parts work. And I would say probably somatic therapy too, just letting the emotion to come up and just feeling it really, really in the body and letting itself express, coming out from the shadow and feeling safe in your expression. Those I like. There is a shamanic journey as well, right? What others do you know?
Well, thank you for your list. So just to recap, you like dialogue, IFS therapy, and what was the third one? Oh, shamanic
Like a somatic therapy, like
and
experience
somatic therapy.
the
Yes.
emotion in the body. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, automatic writing is one that I've done for myself. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. You could write at your computer, you can get a piece of paper and set the intention. Set the intention to bring up a specific shadow. Like if you know what a shadow is, you could really focus on it. And even if you don't know which one you need to work with or you want to work with, you could literally, and I get sit at my computer or I advise other people to do this and close their eyes, right? And you could just kind of start to type out and don't worry about it being correct. But that's one way. IFS therapy, so powerful. I've done that for clients so many for a long period of time, and that to me, I felt like that was the most effective way. It's not the easiest. It could be the more challenging method actually to really kind of feel, because it takes, for some people it takes time for them to get used to internal family systems.
Yeah.
Also human design and
Hmm.
gene keys. If you have your chart, especially with gene keys, it shows you the high expression, the gift, and the shadow expression, and you can write out a list. I have a client that I'm working with right now, and I gave her a list of all of her shadow expressions so that way she can start to journal with some of those. Like what does impatience mean to her? Like what arises in her body? What comes to mind? Is there a memory? Does she go blank? Kind of really using that one word to take her on a journey. So there are so many different methods. I've even seen journals like on Amazon for
Yeah.
shadow work, and it'll give you prompts. So there's so many good methods out there.
Yes, I love human design. I love journaling. Yes, as well. Jinkies. Yes, I connect to all of them as well.
Yeah, yeah. And for you personally, what is part of what, or how do you feel like you started to transform when you did shadow work more consistently, or when you really used it as a integration tool in your life? What type of transformation do you feel like you started to receive?
I started to totally have more compassion towards myself and towards other people because now I don't see what they do, I see why they do it. I now definitely know what I love to do and what I want to be, where am I going in life. I allowed myself to dream again, to dream big and believe in something that is possible, working with my protector part that says, "Oh, don't dream, it's not gonna work anyways." So that voice is less loud for sure. Um, and yeah, having people coming into my life that are just people who make me feel safe. The part of the loneliness is gone. It's kind of, I'm not here fighting for myself. I'm co-creating with the world, and the sense of connection to the world in general. Like everything is connected, seeing how everything is just a part of the big picture that is trying to put itself together over time.
if someone really like if they're brand new to shadow work and they just want to test it out with like a couple of journaling questions, what are like 2 or 3 journaling questions that they could start with for shadow work?
Favorite question, one of my favorite question is, what am I afraid would happen if I let go of this pattern, relationships, or what is the positive outcome do I get from this negative thing that I am, aware of doing, but I cannot let go? And maybe what would I do today if I knew that my dream is possible to have, to manifest? Like, what steps would I take today already, knowing that what I dream about is not just a dream, it can be a reality.
Beautiful. And I'm going to add one in there. Those are great, by the way. Thank you for that. One of the shadow work questions that I love, you got to be ready for it, you guys. Try not to do this one when you don't have a lot of time to sit with yourself. But one of them is, what lies do I tell myself every day?
Uh,
That could, if you give yourself like the space and like you're really like ready to sit with it and you're not gonna like bypass it, like you're really ready, that can open up some things for you. And if and you might have to sit with that question, you might have to come back and journal on that one a couple of times. It may not be just like a one-time thing, but for me, let's see, when I first, because I got that from Shaman Durek. I did his shadow work course back in 2020. And here, okay, just my memory came back to me. The lie was that I needed to go chase love. That love was outside of me. That was the lie that I was telling myself. So I was telling myself every day, I have to go find, like, love is outside of me. Love is outside of me. It's not within me. I have to go over here to do this, da, 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 right? So when I was journaling about that, I'm like, oh, this is a lie that I'm consciously, unconsciously telling myself. You might have to replay that back to understand what I just said, but it was true. And so as soon as I started to bring more self-awareness around that lie that I was playing around, like I was acting like it was true, it was an illusion, right? The conscious mind was kind of getting wrapped up in it. But on a deeper level, my soul knew that I am love. Like, love is an internal process. It is what I am. I don't have to go chase it. So as soon as it totally flipped the script, right? Like, you can imagine the difference that can make in our lives, our jobs, our careers, our purpose, our relationship with our neighbors and our parents and our kids, when we have that much clarity on we are love or I am love or whatever happens to be your personal perspective on that. So thank you for those shadow work questions. Those are really powerful. So do you have a piece of advice for anyone who's feeling really disconnected? I mean, this whole conversation has been around inner child healing and shadow work, and those are methods and tools and practices that can help us connect to ourselves, increasing self-awareness, allowing ourselves to have self-compassion and accept ourselves for who we are, dark and light and everything in between. But do you have a message, either a message of compassion or even a tip for anyone who might be listening to this episode today and they're just feeling really disconnected, like really off? Like, what can they do? What's your message there?
Advise them to allow them to feel that the whole depth of this feeling of being disconnected and lost, and not try to shift it, because many people, oh, I feel disconnected, I need to do something. But it's like coming back to what you said, that the love is within me. If you understand that our chase for something, our productivity, or all our society is being built upon trying to find the love outside of ourselves, it's so common that we're even at home and we cannot relax, because for us to feel love for ourselves, we need to be productive. So can you, in this space of, oh, I cannot be productive because I feel disconnected, I don't know what to do with my life, I don't have energy, like this space of total kind of disempowerment, maybe victimhood, whatever you want to call it, how can you really Like, give yourself time to just say, I'm okay in this state. Even in this state, I'm okay. How can I find positive reasons to be here? You know, maybe I'm here because my life has taken me to this state, so I can finally shift to somewhere else and my life can become better because I was going into the wrong direction. So yeah, I think I would advise people to be able to stay with their uncomfortable states,
Beautiful.
and
Thank you for that.
accept. Yeah.
Amazing. And do you have either a powerful quote or meaningful quote that you would love to share, or either a book recommendation?
The book, I love Gabor Mate, and the book that now I'm reading is called When the Body Says No.
That's on my
Really,
list. Yes, that's on
just
my
got
list of reading for this month.
it's amazing so far, and it talks about how long before the modern science, hundreds of years ago, they all talked about the connection between the mind and the body. And all of that
Beautiful.
knowledge was just suppressed because there is an agenda to disconnect us.
Mm,
So, to disconnect, to bring this, symptom fixing medicine that has been, around us. But
yeah.
it's the knowledge is coming back, so it's great book to read.
Amazing, amazing. This conversation has been so powerful. Yana, thank you so much for being on the show. But before we go, if this conversation really resonated with you, please connect with Yana. We have her links, her Instagram link, her Facebook link, here in the description. And I'm going to give you her website. Her website's also in the description, but I love to spell things out. So it's Yana's Healing Sanctuary. And actually that's long to spell out. So Yana's Healing Sanctuary. Yana is spelled YANAS, and then healingsanctuary.com. Yana, what is one powerful way that people can work with you or connect with you deeper?
I love working one-on-one, so it's always a journey. It depends on what you need and how I feel, what intuitively comes up to me, but I essentially combine emotional work, holding safe space for you, giving you recommendation in terms of supplements, yoga, breath work, even sometimes food prep, like whatever you feel your body needs and you need support in, I'm here.
Great. Thank you, Yana. Thank you so much for being on the show. I greatly appreciate it. If this conversation resonates with you, please share this episode with a friend. I'm sure you can think of one friend, at least one friend today that would love to hear the insights in this conversation today. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Namaste and have a great day.